Hello and welcome to Film Companion South. In this episode, we are going to be talking about George Korra and Sam Xavier's Thirike, which is now playing on Stream. This is the story of two brothers named Thomas and Ismu. Thomas is played by George Korra himself, one of the co-directors, and Ismu is played by the TikTok star Gopi, who has Down syndrome. This is the film's rock star. Gopi is the film's rock star. His performance is so endearing and so real and so lacking a kind of self-pity or anything, that he's so natural. He's such a natural film star that you want to kind of go and give him the kind of big hug that Thomas wants to give him. Now, before we start talking about Thirike, I want to talk about two other films. The first one is Nyandigalere Naatilo Ridavela, which George Korra co-wrote, and the other one is the short film Last Day of Summer, which George Korra wrote and directed by himself. Now, there is a definite voice in these two films. Now, one of them is about cancer, a mother suffering from cancer, and the other one is about the distance between a father and a son, the physical distance, the emotional distance between a father and a son. Now, these are very, very heavy subjects, but both these films treat them with such lightness that instead of just crying or weeping at the heaviness of the subject, you are kind of laughing or smiling through a mist of tears. And I think this is George Korra's voice. I think he likes to take extraordinary situations and look at them through refreshingly ordinary ways. Now, the extraordinary situation in Thirike is that the brothers have been orphaned at a very young age, and then they are separated after being admitted into an orphanage when Ismu, the brother with the Down syndrome, is adopted by a very loving Muslim couple played by Shanti Krishna and Gopan Mangal. So Thomas, who is also in the orphanage, is left to grow up all alone, and this is the other extraordinary situation in this film. Now, usually in a film with a special needs child, now Ismu has Down syndrome, this person would be the dependent one, and the older brother or the younger brother or the older sister, younger sister, whatever, the relative basically, they would be the person that this special child depends on. But here, in a brilliant touch, it's the reverse. Thomas is actually in a way a special needs child because Ismu is super adjusted in his new world with Shanti Krishna and Gopan Mangat and that Islamic family. And it's Thomas who actually needs Ismu because without this brother, without the sense of this brother, he has no one to call family. He's all alone in this whole wide world. Now, I spoke about the voice, right? That voice of George Korra's that we saw in the earlier two films, that voice is there throughout Thirike. Here too, we find a heavy subject being treated with utmost lightness as much as possible. But I must say that this time it doesn't work as well as in those earlier films. I wish I'd come away with a better understanding of the bond between the brothers other than just the fact that they are brothers. I wish that I'd had an idea of why the Shanti Krishna character has such a dislike towards Thomas. Yes, it is apparent that there is a psychological battle of wills because both of them, she thinks Ismu is hers and he thinks Ismu is his brother, and so there is bound to be a kind of friction, but I wish this had been elaborated in a more realistic fashion. But here, you don't feel all that much for Thomas because his character is this cute charmer kind of character. You never take him all that seriously. You never feel the psychological blackness inside him. So he's a confectioner, a cake maker, and maybe this is part of the sugar that covers his character, that coats his character. I'm just kidding. But the fact is that we never really feel this character's chronic lying. We never feel this character is always, lacking a sense of responsibility. We never feel that this character, doesn't feel a crisis of conscience when he does something pretty unconscionable with a woman. So the central character, Thomas, played by George Korra, is too fluffy and light for us to take all these big psychological underpinnings seriously, and that really affected my viewing of this film. Now, there are some very, very nice scenes. For example, the scene where Thomas and Ismu encounter the uncle that left them at the orphanage in a kind of a weird way. And there's another scene where we meet an old woman who welcomes them back to their old home, and she's got issues with her son as well. Now again, these are all serious scenes. Some scenes I feel that you can take to that extent where you want to say, okay, this is a serious scene and I want to play it lightly. But when everything is done that way, I think it kind of comes in the way of what the movie is truly trying to achieve, which is to give us a sense of the bond between brothers, but mainly what Thomas's issues are all about. Now, there is a big central act in this movie which happens when Thomas and Ismu kind of take off together. I'm not going to tell you too much about it. It should give us a sense of Thomas's sense of desperation that makes him do this, But instead of the desperation, we feel that these two brothers are taking off on an enigmatic adventure. Now, Thirike is certainly a watchable film. It's very well directed by Sam Xavier and by George Korra. There's a lot of good writing in it. For example, you see a cake, a blue cake at one scene, in a scene with Ismu, and it has a car on top of it. And then later we find out that both the color blue and the fact that the car is something that he wants to drive are important things that come later on. And it's certainly a very heartwarming film. It's really hard to hate, even though you have so many issues with it. It's certainly a film that makes you watch it and smile a lot. But in terms of achieving its full potential, I feel it falls short of what George Korra achieved in Yandugalede Naati Lori Revela and Last Day of Summer. That's it for this review. If you like this review, do subscribe to Film Companion South and see you soon at the movies.